I'm going to take a moment and breathe deep and just enjoy being here with you guys. I've been here through the day. Fucking awesome crowd. Not the best looking crowd I've ever seen. Hey guys, where are all the women? Oh my God, there's like a dozen of them out there and they're awesome, but where are the women? Cheese and crackers. Mark, thank you so much for inviting me. I was telling him earlier that I felt a little bit out of my element because I was listening to the talks earlier, and you guys are like, thank you for the conference. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for organizing this party for you all. And also, and I got to take a moment because this is all I've started putting on events. So sponsors who are out there, you guys rock because you make this thing happen. Visit the t-shirt place, visit all the stuff outside. Listen, we don't do this alone, you know? Mark can't do this with his, you know, with his paycheck because he quite frankly doesn't have one. You know, and I understand that because we've been doing our own events and we've got amazing sponsors that we work with. MailChimp has been just wonderful to us. We have been fans of theirs and work with them, and now they are fans of ours and work with us, and I think that's awesome. And we also have another sponsor in Jack Daniels, so check this out. I come here at an interesting point in my career, and I feel like this is like therapy. Like I haven't seen you in a year, and a lot of things have happened in my life, and I would like to talk about them if I could. But that's basically what I want to do is kind of share with you these stories and this different trajectory that we are on. Because traditionally, I work as a graphic designer. I worked as a graphic designer. I'm trying to become an ungraphic designer. We are actually taking this year and saying no to most commercial projects because we just really think that they're really fucking not interesting. Because like you, I am capable of excellence. I am capable of this. And most of the clients are capable of this. And I'm so fucking tired of that. So I'll only work with great people. Okay, clickers, there it is. So I started this journey, I was very lucky that when I was 30 years old, I found my dharma. I found what I was put on this planet to do as a graphic designer. First of all, I was born to do this job, and we don't have 3 hours, so I can't tell you the backstory, but I was born to do this job, and like I said, I was very lucky to find my dharma, to find my life's calling at 30 years old. And there was a situation in New York City where it was the 500th anniversary of Columbus, you know, finding the New World, and in the news, there was talks of the parades and all the fancy parties and all the fucking hubbub, and this was actually before Howard Zinn's awesome book. But I'm not an idiot. I look around and go, well, how come I don't have any Native American neighbors? Where the fuck they go? Because the newspapers were talking about parties and the hubbubs. They weren't talking about the pox-infested blankets. They weren't talking about the systematic genocide that continues today. We've got another poster that we're going to do in the fall, a free project and put out all over the city of New York and try to make available as well, which is another comment on using this motif of Native Americans. Pay attention and you'll we'll make word of it before it happens in October. But this set me on a path. I had already been a commercial designer. I was already paying my rent with gigs, you know, doing jobs. But it set me on a path where I started working with either nonprofits or just doing these things on my own. Meaning, when we did the Dead Indian, there were I forget it was like 10,000 posters, a shitload of posters, right? To get those printed cost beaucoup dinero. To get them put up was actually more. And I was a 30-year-old designer, graphic designer. I don't have that kind of money. So I did the only logical thing then. I spent my rent money. I used my money to live to make this thing happen. And here's the interesting part. I have a book that came out a couple of years ago, and I'm, you know, it's like you always think of these things after, but I realized I made a huge fucking mistake with the book, because I write about the Indian, and I write about the pox-infested blankets and stuff, but I forgot to mention this. Every couple of months, because I'm now horny to get statement out, and I know I can't find anybody to fund my opinion, right? And there's no client out there who's wants to be this truthful. So I'm spending my rent money, and that means, get this is awesome, every 3 months, bzz, the buzzer, I go downstairs, I open the door, and there's a guy in a suit, and he goes, "You are served." Eviction notices. I got a handful of eviction notices, because this is what I was doing with my bread. And buying lots of beer and chasing skirt, but the mistake I made is I didn't keep those fucking notices. I didn't keep the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. I didn't keep it, because I would have beautifully photographed them, put them in my book, and I would have said, "This is the fucking cost of my freedom. Fuck you. Fuck you, eviction notices. Rent gets paid," right? I should have saved them. So this got me on to working with not-for-profits like the NAACP with the racism in the death penalty, also racism in the death penalty, what we call the Disneyfication of America, of Times Square and of New York City. It's like a fucking shopping mall. Don't even go there anymore. You know what? You want to visit New York? Come in through JFK and just stay in the fucking airport, because you can buy the same shit. Just turn around and go home. Save money on your fucking hotel. B&B that. Other issues that I was concerned about. I started making stickers a number of years ago, because stickers are cheaper to make and easier to distribute. You don't have to spend $400 framing them when you give them as gifts, you know. This one says, "Advertisers think you're stupid." And you know, the only people, you know, I don't mean all advertisers. I just mean most advertisers. And you know, the only people who get in touch with me and are offended by this are fucking moron advertisers who are so guilty in their soul. Fuck off. A number of images. I've had a nice career. I make fun stuff. They made this watch for a Japanese company. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you can actually tell, you know, do you look at her feet or do you look at her knees or like. But you know, if you pay attention during the day, you will notice that sometimes actually are sexier than others. Did a line of T-shirts for the Japanese fashion designer Yohji Yamamoto. This is one of a bunch of them we made. This is what I call my to-do list. That's the only thing I haven't done today is eat. So I have a nice gig. I work with Esquire magazine, and they allow me to do things like paint on supermodels. So this was for the cover of Esquire two years ago or whatever. This is Bar Raffaele. After a few months earlier, she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated for their thing. So then I got this gig to paint on her for the cover. She was so nice. Like first of all, the gig was going to be at a photo studio at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So she shows up at 9:30, fresh off the red eye from Israel. She's wearing jeans and a T-shirt, and she is stunning, fucking stunning. I think that's why they put the word super in front of model for some of these girls. She's a fucking supermodel. Stunning. So I'm like an idiot. I feel like a waiter, you know. Good afternoon, I'm James, I'll be your painter. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, and she was so kind, she said, shit you not, first words out of her mouth, "This better come off or I will sue you." And I said, "You can have my pickup truck, bitch. Like, fuck off. That's all I got." So all this stuff leads up to a point a couple of years ago that ended up being a real changing point with me. I know some friends who have written books, and the books changed their lives. It changed what they were doing. It changed their friends and who they hung out with, which was really awesome. Some people made a lot of money. For me, it was an attitude adjustment. For me, the thing that happened is this book came out, and then I went on a book tour. And I went all over the place. Actually, I think during the thing I was at Brighton during that period. But I went everywhere from like Anchorage, Alaska, to Cape Town, South Africa, through Slovenia and Atlanta and all these. Crazy. It was crazy. I remember it was like 30 or 50 cities in a very couple of months. It was crazy. And it was interesting because I got amazing opportunities like this. Like I could just hang out and we could talk, I could show work and we could talk about stuff. I mean, the bar time was always awesome, right? But then I was doing a Q&A, which I don't do Q&As any fucking more because of this, but I was doing a Q&A at one of the talks, and some kid in the back, of course he's in the back, right? He raises his hand and he says, "Mr. Victore, I've got a question for you." I said, "Sure." He says, "I hear what you're saying. You're using you're like making things happen. What is that called? Do it yourself. He says, "But I got rent to pay." And I said, "Interesting. What's your name?" He said, "My name is Mark." I said, "Mark, here's your tombstone. Here lies Mark. He would have done great work, but he had to pay rent." Fuck you and fuck your rent. Here lies Mark. He would have done great work, but his boss wouldn't let him. Are you kidding me? There was this, I recognized through talking to a lot of different people, I recognized this victim mentality. Like, yeah, I'd really like to change jobs, but I got this big screen TV coming in I gotta pay for. Like this fucking, like, listen, you guys, if you're not hip and cool with your lives and your jobs and stuff, there's only one fucking person to blame. And it's not your mom. Right? Really? So after spending that time and looking around at my work and seeing like we've done great sexy stuff, but it's really not. You can't raise a family on that. I got a 16-year-old boy. He's going to private school. I've got this amazing, beautiful wife. My wife, Laura, who you guys have to talk to. She's a genius. I would be a fucking charlatan, a fake, to stand here and say, look at my beautiful work, and look at I did this. It's not me. It's my beautiful wife, she has an official job in our studio, and she is called Chief Muse. And my assistant's name is Chris Thompson, and he's a son of a gun. He is freaking awesome. And we had a meeting before the end of the year, and we had a meeting, and I said, Chris, I think it's time that you have a raise, but in name only. And he said, "Yeah, no, I've been thinking about that." That's how cool he is. He didn't say like, "Oh." He said, "Yeah, I was thinking about that." And I said, "Let me run this by you. What do you think?" I did that too, that James Kirk thing. I was like, "What do you think if I now officially refer to you as my main man, Chris?" And he was like, "Yeah, I like that." So now I have to officially refer to him as my main man, Chris. So when Chris and Laura got involved, which is about 3 years ago, Chris is coming on about 4 years ago, got involved in our game, in our little studio, we call it. After the book series and after the trip and after talking to all these people, I realized our goal. And our goal wasn't to, Chris came into the studio thinking he was going to be a graphic designer, and he's not. He's just, he's useless that way. It's not important. I don't want to be a graphic designer. I don't want to do these jobs. You know, there are some geniuses out there, crazy people with money, and I want to find them. Or the crazier people with euros. It's so much better. But we have this new idea, and it's called our work is a gift. So if we can figure out how to make great work and make it accessible to everybody and make it freaking free, and our work is a gift, we'll succeed. And I worked on a job. We did a goofy little animation. The School of Visual Arts, where I teach, asked me to do an animation. So I did this goofy little animation, and they didn't care what it was about. So we were just at the threshold of coming up with the idea. So we put together this very simple little tabletop animation, and it goes a little bit like this, and explains the idea.
Your work is a gift. This is a radical idea because it changes how you think about your work. It changes why you work, what you make, and even who you work for. When your work is a gift, your goal is no longer to satisfy a client or boss, or even to gain a paycheck. You now work to make yourself happy, and in turn speak directly to your audience, because you now give them something of value, a piece of yourself. Your work, your voice, unrestrained and pure, has the power to entertain, to enlighten, and to move others. Your work is a gift, and the world is waiting for it.
So the funny thing, then what happens is, it's all right. What happens is SVA runs the video, it does very well, but the school itself contacts us and says, can you make another one? And we said, yeah, sure. And they sent over their idea. And you get this, the idea was, we didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about making lots of money. We talked about pay attention to the work, right? Now SVA is like, I know what they're thinking, and they're like, we can't show this to the parents. Because their parents want their kids to go to school and get a good job and succeed, and right? Now here's my conundrum. We're actually working on that job right now. I just said yes and lied completely that we would do what they want. Because here's the thing. There is a book called the Bhagavad Gita, and it's a source of inspiration for myself and for millions of people. And if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita, or if you haven't read Rumi, awesome philosopher, writer. If you haven't read the Tao, the book of the Tao, if you haven't read the Bible, there's some amazing stuff out there. And this is where all of our work is coming from right now. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a line that I read years ago, probably when I was out of college. And it says, you are not entitled to the fruit of your labor. You are only entitled to the labor itself. And I never understood that. And now I've grown up a little bit, and I think I know what it means. It means don't fucking pay attention to the reward. Don't chase money. You know, pay attention to the work. First of all, if you pay attention to the reward, what you're going to get, it will never be enough. Whether it's money or fame or perfection, it will never be enough. It will never appear. Don't fucking chase it. You know, Rilke says, you live the questions, just a different version of the same thing. You know, and if you do live the questions, you'll find that you will live your way right into the answer, right? So SVA wants me to talk about money. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another very goofy little video, because these are just opportunities for us to play or practice. And we're going to do it with finger puppets, because that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And we're writing the voiceover for that sultry bastard to read again. We're writing the voiceover, and it's literally called How to Make Money, but it's about reward. And we work for a number of different reasons in my studio, and I know that you guys do too. You work for a number of different reasons. Money is one, and it's not a good one. And it's basically never enough either. So don't fucking chase money. So now that our work is a gift, and now that we have this attitude, we come upon the most bizarre project I've ever done in my life, which is for the city of New York, the last client in the world you would ever expect to do great work for, right? So we do the city of New York Department of Probation. And if you don't know what the Department of Probation means, it means this. You are in New York, you're having a good time, you fucked up. But not bad enough to go to jail. You are now on probation, which means every month or every week, once or twice, you've got to show up at one of the 33, they call them resource hubs, the offices of probation, in New York City, in the Bronx or whatever. These are the most horrible places on the planet. Worse than Disneyland. Can you believe that? More urine smell than Disneyland. This is what it looked like, right? This was their interface. I learned that word today. This was their chairs, which, you know, for you guys are going like, oh, dude, I would totally put that in my house. But when you show up at these offices, you can smell the oppression, right? Here, look, this is how it goes. This is how it works at the DOP. Welcome. Have a seat. Shut the fuck up. You know, it says literally you have no friends. You know? No eating, no drinking, no smoking. And then I love it. Somebody else was in there and they thought, you know what? I think they should sit back straight. And she's like writing in, sit back straight, right? And I love it. No sleeping is allowed in this area. You know, I don't give a shit about typography or kerning or fucking fonts or anything, but it works. I mean, it does have there are some rules, I gotta tell you. And then at the bottom it says, thank you. It's so kind you could observe our rules. So, we're working on this job, and we got asked by the architects who did this. And he's a pal of mine. His name is Jim Bieber, an amazing architect, B-I-B-E-R. An amazing architect, kind and generous and fucking smart. And he signs us on to do the kind of the graphic end, you know, to pick a font and do some colors. That we call that thin patina of graphic design, that surface stuff, right? And so the way we work is we'll get a job, and we're thinking on it in the studio, and we're not getting anywhere. I'm like, what the fuck? Why? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. We go into one of these things. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? You know, and we're like, oh, wait a minute. This is the problem. We can't do this in the studio. There's no good thinking that happens in our studio. We are the studio that lunches. We go to lunch every day, and we always carry pens and paint markers, and we go to seek the muse. We get out of the studio, away from our computers and our books and those crutches, you know, that junk. And we get out of the studio, and we avail ourselves to the gods so they may whisper in our ear. And this always happens at an Italian restaurant. And about halfway through a big bottle of Chianti and a nice pizza, we get to that point, and you guys know that point. This is our job. My job is to get us to this point. And you've been there before, and you know how it works. You're talking with a pal. You're at the bar, right? And you go, hey, what are you working on? Oh, I got this thing, you know, I'm working on this HTML thing. I learned that word today, too. I don't think it's a word, though. I'm doing good. And you get to this point, and you're like, after a drink or two, and you go, you know, you start upping the ante, right? And then one of you goes, you know, it would be really funny. Then we do it. Then that's the thing. That's fuck yes. Fuck yes. No. No, there's a job I didn't even bring here because there was just like, like I said, there wasn't 3 hours. There was a job that came like this, and we were sitting in the Italian restaurant, and we're having some, and by the time we left the Italian restaurant, I was ordering live chickens. I fucking shit you not. Ordering live chickens for this job, for some job, I like that moment. I like that point. Get me a supermodel, I'm going to paint on her boobies. And the point was, we said, listen, this is the DOP. These are probationers. You know what I need? You know what these people need? You know what I would want? Because it was that, you can't say these people. Because the difference between anybody in the Department of Probation and me is they got caught. That's it, right? I know what I would want if I was in that situation. First of all, as a pedestrian New Yorker, I bemoan the lack of art on the streets. These fucking shitty fucking advertising posters that are everywhere. Are you guys familiar with the artist Cassandra or Cappaello or Jules Chéret? These posters that sell for thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. You've seen them in books or in galleries or in someone's fancy home, right? If you look at them, oh, that one sells shoes. That one's selling cheese. That one's selling cigarettes. That's all it fucking is. Why is the shit outside so fucking bad? It's not that hard, guys. Fuck off. Are you kidding me? That's what we get? That's the best advertisers can give us? Fuck off, you lazy fucking cunts. You spent how much? Anyway, I'm off the subject a little bit. Sorry. So we got to that point, and it was like, oh, you know what? Motivation. That's what they need. Matter of fact, there's this poster, this framed piece in the gym, and it's got this eagle, and it says vision, and it makes, like, I'll walk back after tired, after doing my workup, and I'll see the eagle, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back and do 10 more push-ups. Thank you, eagle. This fucking stuff, this is all over the place. I don't know where this stuff started happening. This is just ludicrous. So we said, we can do better. So we started making a series of inspirational, motivational posters. So we used the same imagery. So our eagle says, there are no shortcuts. If you hated doing the job the first time, if you didn't like doing the job the first time, you're gonna hate doing it the second time. Basically, there are no shortcuts. Do the job or you will come out of the process unchanged, right? And then I think that, they didn't ask us for posters. We just gave them posters. And I don't think a poster looks official without logos, but they didn't have a logo, so we made up one for them. So that all the posters have 4 little logos that we made up, and they all have a warning, and this one says, a beautiful life is waiting for you. Then there's this other one that's really awesome that says, teamwork with jets, like, argh. We use the jets, and ours says, ask for help. This is the place. These people who work here want to help you. They don't want you to come back. They don't want you here. And then this is how, our warning on this one says, this too shall pass, which is one of the only truths, and it's the hardest thing in the world to know when you're in the middle of something, right? And this is how awesome Chris is, because I suffer a little bit from perfectionism, These drawings that you see, these crappy fucking, with all of these pieces, I did it one time, and Chris just took them and scanned them high res and didn't let me add it again. He kept it away from me. So then we're out instead of, because I will draw this thing, I will drive everyone crazy, writing these letters over and over again and never getting any better. And then when we're doing the final prints and we're getting these huge test prints, and I see this sunshine and the moon in the corner, which was just a little, I was joking. It was like it'd be really funny, And the moon is farting, and saying oops, But it's funny because it looks like the jets, but I was like, Chris, wait, what? He's like, no, it's cool. I'm like, oh, okay. It's cool. Vision, again with the vision. What's up? Eagle with the vision, now the beach? Do beaches have good eyesight? I don't understand this one. So we used a landscape, and we turned it sideways, and we call it a lesson in perspective. And we put that dumbass little, is this a two-pronged or a three-pronged, you know? But the lesson is, and we stole it from their paper, it says, you have no friends, you have no enemies, you only have teachers. And if you can wrap your head around that, you will be a genius. That means, that's Viktor Frankl, right? The Jewish teacher and psychologist who was in Auschwitz, and more than Auschwitz, I think they did medical testing on him, so it was like the worst of the worst, right? And the only thing that saved him was that he saw himself, he envisioned himself down the road teaching this situation, teaching about what he was doing to his students. So he made the worst tormentors in the world became his best teachers. You know, we can fucking do this. These guys have to do this. Footprints in the sand, right? With this poem that I would never read. So we used the footprints in the sand. We found our own footprints in the sand, and we just made one that says, improve yourself, change the world, start here, start small, right? So here you can see the logos. We made up the little NYC thing, and there's a little thumbs up. It's our little version of a pat on the back, like, good job, you know? There's a hero logo and a victim logo, and we cross the victim logo out. It's funny shit. But this is where we started. Because we're sitting at lunch, and I'm like, oh, you know what? When I was a kid, there was this poster. It was like a kitten, and I think it said, like, hang in there, kitty. We should do something with that. And I'm like, we got to get that kitten. He's got to be, like, 45 now. Like a big, old, fat kitten. It won't stick. It keeps... No. Oh, they declawed it. They should have told us. No, but our kitten says, let go, kitty. Because no, listen, if we had kept hang in there, kitty, as advice for these people, like, whatever you're doing, just keep on trying, right? Just better run faster next time, gotta tell you. You know, it's like, this is bad advice. What happened is we obviously worked for the city of New York. And the city of New York, when they get money, they get it within a very short time frame. Like the DOP had like 3 months or 2 months for everything to happen because we had the be done and bill. That was the deadline. It was like billing. So we didn't have a lot of time, right? And we worked with the boss. And the first meeting was just 5 people, Chris and myself, and 3 people from the DOP, 6 people because Jim Bieber, the architect, was there. So we went through and we showed all the stuff. Jim showed all the furniture and showed how the ceiling tiles are going to work and showed how we're going to take down those pieces of glass that people talk to like this, you know? And the only question from the first meeting, everybody was like, okay, I like the tone, we like the positive advice, we like the only question was, this woman in the back, not in the back, there was 6 people at the table, this woman says, I have a question, James. And I said, yes. And she says, the kitten isn't a vagina reference, is it? And I should have just said, would you like to have a drink and discuss it later? I'm like, no, wow, no. So then we had another meeting with maybe 6 more people. And we went through the whole thing, and there was one word they changed in one of the copies, in one of the texts that we wrote, right? Because we said asshole. I was like, listen, no. The reason it says asshole is because we're trying to speak directly to your client, to your audience, and be honest with them. Come on. They know they fucked up. Are you kidding me? I want to speak honest with them. And they're like, So now it says knucklehead, which is totally like, they just like found that poster's balls and just went, thunk, thunk. So the second meeting was fine except for the knucklehead asshole thing. And then Vinny Schiraldi, who runs the department, amazing guy, awesome guy, always chipper, such a rallier of the troops. He says, James, I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, but there are budget cuts going on in other parts of the city, and we're getting money. So there's a little bit of bad blood going around. So what we need to do is we have to have a meeting with the DOP. I said, okay, what does that mean? He means 40 people, 44, 45, people from the DOP. I'm like, Vince, awesome. You've shepherded this thing for us, which is what we need. We'll do the meeting, and I gotta tell you, there isn't a committee. You know, there will be no questions. This is just, you're just showing it, right? And they said, yes, we're just showing it. I said, because there isn't a committee on the planet that is concerned with greatness or beauty or truth. Their committees' jobs are to make things smaller and safer and fucking cheaper. So if these things get killed, they are killed. You will have bare walls because, you know, there's just no freaking time. He's like, no, it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be awesome, blah, blah, blah. So 40 people do the show and talking to him and blah, 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 and Jim Bieber is packing up and he leaves, and then it's just me and I'm doing the thing, and then halfway through the meeting, halfway through my little presentation, I get a little pat on my shoulder, and it's Vince Schiraldi, and he says, you're doing great. I gotta go to another meeting. And I was like, no. You know, like totally, they felt like that. Like, so we get through the thing, and sorry, I'm getting to the point. I'm just remembering that, yeah. Packing up, saying, thank you very much. You guys are awesome. And the vagina woman says to the crowd, are there any questions? I'm like, Susan, I thought we talked about this before. You know, how do you do that? And there were some questions. There was some concerns about, are there going to be more culturally appropriate images? I'm like, culturally appropriate, I don't know what that means. You mean like, you want to see Martin Luther King Jr. again? Really? You're going to talk down to your fucking people? Really? No fucking culturally appropriate. This is universally appropriate. And then in the back, this young woman raises her hand. She says, we have, in the DOP, we have a number of clients who are mentally ill, and I think that the kitten would inspire them to commit suicide. Right? You're only as good as your client, right? And I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. But then, this is awesome. Because my job is, you know, we do workshops, and I'll tell you about it a little bit. My job is to get people to stop asking for permission. My job is to get people so fucking hot and horny that they've got to move and they got to find that, you know, grab back onto their dharma and ride it like a motherfucker, right? But what happens when she raised her hand and voiced that opinion, what happens is she gave others the permission to do the same. And somebody else just then goes, oh, I could see that. So they killed the kitten. Killed the kitten. Best thing I've ever done in my entire life, and they killed it right in front of me, just like snapped its little neck. And actually, if you ever want to see it, follow Kate home, because the only living copy of the Kate is in the MailChimp offices. But we replaced it quickly. In like 2 days, we came back and we gave them the universe. So it's like, you are here, but your dream is here. Meaning, get back, line it back up again, right? And then what we also did was, this is actually this is actually low reds, and the copy isn't even the actual copy. This was like so early in the process. But what we did is we circled another little planet out there, and it says, this is Uranus. Right? right? If there were 5-year-olds in the DOP, they would love that shit. So this is what the stuff looks like. We just chose a typeface. We cleaned up their paperwork. There's the posters, the big-ass posters. This is Vince Schiraldi. Those are house rules. That's another poster we said, you know, all that stuff, like don't do this and sit back straight. And this is the way we do it. We just put all the things they didn't want. We crossed them all out. And then I made another mistake. So I want to go in when we do if we get the call to do another office, because I don't know how far along in the process. They kind of ran out of bread, so I don't know how far along they are in the process. Basically, the house rules are going to say cell phones, guests, you know, spitting, smoking. And at the bottom, there'll be something that isn't crossed out, and it will just say, be kind. You know, no spitting, no smoking. Oh, no, if you want to be kind. Oh, yeah, sure, go. You know? It's like, it's okay. And Vince was awesome because we went to a number of ribbon cutting ceremonies, and he was always so generous and kind to Jim Bieber and myself. And he always told he told the story that the people from the DOP, the client, the fuck up, what happened is the elevator doors would open and they would walk out into the room and they would look around, and then before the doors closed, they would go back into the because they thought they were in the wrong place. And the reason they thought they were in the wrong place is this: no one had ever treated them like that. No one had ever made anything nice for them. No one had ever spoken to them directly and up here, like giving them something to aspire to, not talk down to, right? I got this email a week ago with a photograph of these two guys, a guy and a girl, giving me, like, you know, they had the smiles and they were giving me this. I think that's love, or it better not be what I think other than, but they were like doing this, and they were writing poetry based on the posters. You know, because they have got nothing but time in these offices. So they were writing fucking poetry based on the fucking posters, which is crazy. You know, we did you know, like I said before, we did interviews after this, a number of interviews about this DOP project. And people would always ask about, they would say, James, what kind of research did you do on this project? And I'm like, research? What's that? Why do I have to do any research? They are us. They want what I want. They want beautiful things in their DOP, in their house, in their lives. They want to be spoken to intelligently. They don't want to be lied to. They can tell. You know, there was a poster that they had done. There was a poster that they had done before I got on board, and it was in these all red colors, and it said, the big text said, "We got your back." It was some fucking dumbass white guy trying to be cool. So in the very first meeting, I'm sitting next to this marketing guy for the DOP, and we were chatting. I said, "What do you do here?" He says, "Oh, I do marketing for the DOP." He says, "You know, I'd already heard about this poster, right?" He says, "Yeah, I don't really work at the DOP. I'm actually an author. I just got this job. I've been here for like 2 years, and I took an InDesign class." I'm like, I felt like saying, I'm in the fucking MoMA, and you're my competition? What? But they printed thousands of these posters and had to throw them away because they were in gang colors. Fucking moron. I mean, he works there. We were in one of the early meetings, and Jim Bieber is showing these swatches of, you know, fabric and this beautiful furniture that's like really big and heavy, and you can't pick it up and stab somebody with it, right? But he was showing this green, and they said, we can't use green. So we can't use green. Why? Well, it's a gang color. Okay, and he flips over and he says, it comes in this orange. He's like, oh, no, we can't use orange. He's like, it's a gang color? They said, yeah. He said, okay, how about this? How about you tell me what all the gang colors are? And it's like, okay, you can't use green, you can't use orange, you can't use red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, or gold. like, what the fuck? But what we ended up doing is we don't use green in the Bronx, we use it in Manhattan, and you don't use, like, really crazy stuff. But this is what the offices look like now, which is kind of crazy. You know, from simple little, there's the bathroom, you know, to the posters and it's nuts. You know, if you think of your work as a gift, you're not concerned about getting your reward for it. You're not concerned about making your client or your boss happy, because there's an actual audience behind them. That's who you work for. That's who I work for. That's what thrills me beyond belief. That's a squirrel. So, about a little over a year ago, I started this thing, we started this thing called, it was then called Q&A Tuesday, now it's called Burning Questions. And what it is we send out word through Twitter and Facebook and whoever else will listen to us, send out word and ask for questions about life and balance and work and creativity. No fucking graphic design questions. Go get that from somebody who gives a shit. And we get these questions, and then we answer them on air. Every week, every Tuesday, we send out, I think we have to send one out tomorrow. We send out these videos, and the response has been so humbling. It's been, the questions are so earnest and concerned, and we try to do a good job. We generally answer the question in a different way the author thought, you know? But the response has just been so overwhelming and kind, and now I'm look back and go, I was an idiot. Because this should be 2 years old by now. Because it was Laura's idea in the first place. She said, we've got something to say. Video is the way to get it out there. You should do video. I'm like, that's a great idea. Who are we gonna get? She said, no, you. I'm like, no, baby, you don't understand. A camera and me, that doesn't, you know? It was my own fucking fear. My fear that kept me small. My fear that stopped me. This is something we do, in that we just take time out of the studio. We do it for frickin' free. And my fear was gonna hold me back. This thing has turned into the flagship, the maidenhead of our juggernaut. It's so crazy, because our work is a gift, remember? We give this away, and it's gonna stay free. But it was my fear of looking bad, my fear of being embarrassed, that was gonna stop me for it. And only with Laura's urging did we do it. And now, like I said, I'm trying not to be mad about having it be, you know, not done it the previous year, but it's awesome. And now we're getting to the point which is really cool. Now we're getting really crazy because we're inviting, the intro is done by some friends of ours in Manchester, these young designers called Dr. Me, and we just got in touch with some other crazy designers, animators, filmmakers in Stockholm called Snask. I don't know if you guys know Snask, but they're gonna start working on our next intros. And then I think his name has come up on stage. John Bergerman is going to start doing something. So different intros and different outros done by different people, and then hopefully this quality, goofy content. So this is our year not to do many commercial projects, because we need the elbow room to make some other things happen. We're concentrating on Burning Questions, and we're concentrating on a totally new thing called cubicle activism, that I may mention later, I don't know. But you've totally have to be in on it. You totally have to be in on. Cubicle activism is our fight club. So you totally have to be involved in it. But we're not doing many commercial projects, but we're only doing projects for people that we trust and people that we know. This is a series of books. It's the first 5 of a probably 30 or 40 book series from publishers in England. It's called the Do Books. And I know these people, and they asked me to do this job. And they said, James, we don't have much of a budget. And I said, well, that's okay. What do you got? And they told me, and I'm like, wow, you don't have much of a budget, do you? Wow, you really weren't shitting me. But I said, listen, I like you, and I want to work with you. So here's how it's going to go. I will accept your lousy budget, and as a trade, you get no say whatsoever. And they said, that scares us, but we'll do it. They just recently wrote on their blog, and it was called, James Victore asked us to trust him, and we're glad he did. Like they said, you know, they had questions about these things, and I'm like, I believe that an artist signs his work, so my signature is on all the covers. And they had questions about, could you put it, could you, I'm like, right? Because of this project, I work with the blog 99U. I don't know if you guys are hip to who those guys are. They do a wonderful job. I write on their blog. I am currently writing an article because of this. And the article is called Trust as Inspiration. Right? Just because I have a client who has whatever money is no guarantee of good work. I want to do good work. I can only do good work for people who trust me. People who let me do my fucking job, right? Gosh. Now I don't know what I'm saying. You got me all confused. Hold air. So now I'm game to do to work on the rest of this thing, and because now I'm really excited. Because if you throw money at me, it doesn't make the work better. Look at fucking Hollywood, for fucking sake, right? But if you trust me, I am thoroughly inspired to do great work for you. You know? Most work with most clients, and there are gems out there, and we've tried to find them, and we love them and hold them dear to our bosom and feed them chocolates, right? And bathe them in rose petals, you know? But if you don't have trust in yourself and trust in your vision, trust in an idea that we work with all the time, and it comes from a number of sources. I first read it in an introduction to James Joyce's Dubliners. And in an early version, he was writing about it, and he said, if I do a good job describing Dublin, my hometown, and the people in it who I love and the people in it who I hate, I will be describing everywhere, because in the particular lies the universal, right? And if I am honest with myself, and I put my own fears and my own loves and my own hopes into my work, it speaks volumes. It always has, from the dead Indian all the way through, right? And money doesn't change that. It's trust that frees that up, that lets that shit happen. So now, since we're not doing many commercial projects, and I've realized that I'm a pretty good graphic designer, but I'm actually possibly a better teacher. So now what we're trying to do is use creativity and use graphic design as a metaphor for helping other people in their own personal creative revolution, trying to be catalysts for their creativity and their courage. I would TM that, but there's too many C's. It sounds like a logo. So now what we're doing is we're doing events and we're doing workshops. Because now what we want to do is influence the influencers. You know, I can see it in the streets, and I can see it in our work even, this like knee-jerk, this high level of mediocrity that most of us have to suffer. That's out in the streets, that's on our book covers, that's our, I got this, one of my proteges was like, James, you gotta read this book. Oh my God, it's so interesting, it's about creativity, and it's got the guy who's a teacher, and blah, blah. So I get this book, and I wish I remember the title, because I'd like to pee on it in front of you, but I get the book, and I'm like, it's about creativity, and guess what's on the cover? A light bulb. I'm like, oh my fucking God, are you kidding me? Another fucking light bulb? I know that there's this knee-jerk response, this high level of mediocrity, that only succeeds because it offends the fewest number of people. We're not interested in that. So now we want to influence the influencers. So we throw different workshops. This one is called the Dinner Series, and you come and spend 5 days with me in the studio, and we rip it up, and we have fun, and we get exhausted, and every evening we go to a private restaurant with a private chef, and I invite samurai, people I've worked with, people I know from different industries to come and spend time with us. This is Chip Kidd, and we're having dinner. We just pulled one of these off recently, and our dinner guests in the evening were David Granger, who's the chief editor of Esquire magazine, Baratunde Thurston, who wrote a book called How to Be Black. He wrote this book called How to Be Black, right? And what he does is he goes to, whenever he travels, he takes pictures of people reading the book. Because if it's, is it better? Okay, so he says, he takes pictures of people reading his book. He says, when black guys are reading How to Be Black, it's really funny. But when white guys are reading How to Be Black, it's funny too, you know? So Baratunde Thurston and Regina Thomashauer, and she's been on Conan O'Brien a number of times, and she'll go on Conan O'Brien with a plush doll vagina and show Conan how it works. She is a pleasure revolutionary and a relationship expert. This is the kind of people you want to have dinner with, right? So we do this crazy workshop. I always like playing with fire. And this is the restaurant we have, and it's a friend of mine who's a food photographer, Tom Scherlitz. And this is the original Madman, George Lois. I don't know if you guys know George from Esquire covers from years ago, and a bunch of I Want My Mapo and I Want My MTV and crazy stuff. And he had this book came out last year, and he came and had dinner with us. And you just get to this intimate time with him. And we call them samurai because they're friends of ours who have seen battle. And we want to talk to them about their successes and their failures. David Granger loves talking about fear. I'm like, dude, you're the chief editor of Esquire magazine. Really? You're afraid? He's like, oh my God. He fluctuates back and forth every 15 minutes from, he says, that's what I want to be. That's where the good stuff is. You don't want to be satisfied. I'm like, oh, fuck. It was Josh Davis after the first one. I don't know what unicorns eat, but I think they should switch to gluten-free. This is our mascot. This is a mascot for another event that we do. So burning questions and this thing coming up called cubicle activism are free. This is called Take This Job and Love It. This is cheap. And then the dinner series is wildly expensive because it's just so fucking expensive to put on. So this is just a one-day event that we do, and it's called Take This Job and Love It. And it is based around these 11 stickers. There are these 11 truisms. We call them our 11 commandments. And they are things that, one of them is called, obviously, your work is a gift. Another one is called worrier, not warrior. No, warrior, not worrier. That would be bad, right? Warrior, not worrier. I come from a worrier. My mom is fucking terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. I'm trying to get better. We're good at talking about these subjects because it's important to us, because they're my struggles are your struggles. I know it. I wake up and have the monsters, and the fucking critics in my head. The critics that, that don't really exist. So there's another sticker called Kill the Critic. Oh, hey, wait. Matter of fact, wait, I've got stickers here. So this one is called Po Buddy's Nerfect. It's true. Po Buddy's perfect. Po Buddy's nerfect. Not you, not Po Buddy. So I'm going to throw these. Is that cool? They're like, wait. They're stuck together, so wherever they land, you guys got to rip them up and share them. And what, I forget, am I left-handed or right-handed? I'm going to do it softball girl style. Sorry, girls. So here's Po Buddy's nerfect. This is warrior, not worrier. Oh. Watch out, kid. You're going to poke your eye out. This one is a good one. This one's for you guys. Got to tell you. I bet you're going to love this one. Feck perfection. Nobody here suffers from that, do they? Cha! Oh, these aren't getting very far. Sorry. People in the back, remember, sharing is caring. Remember that. This one says, always ask for more. Yes! Yes, you can. This one says, advertisers think you're stupid. So, et voila. Make sure they get 2 to front and 2 to back. Yeah, just tear off a chunk or little bits and make sure everybody gets them. You know what I found out about stickers? If it's on a sticker, it must be true. So this was the group after the first take this job, and they're doing what we call the power pose. Do you guys know the power pose? Power pose is a there are tests. They've done tests about the power pose. You know what it is? Like this is Muhammad Ali, right? This is Usain Bolt after crossing the finish line. They don't go like this. Nobody does that, you know? It's like you get off the balance beam. You're like, no, you're like this. You're like, I win. I'm the greatest. What we talk about, what we try to teach people to do, is to celebrate their victories before they happen. Meaning, you're going to go into a job interview. Find some spot outside of the building, just stand there a couple of minutes and just go, I got this. This is going to be so awesome. They are going to love me. They love me already. This is going to be awesome. They've done tests that prove that this shit works. You know? I'm a pussy. If I have to make a phone call, it's like, oh, shit. Oh, wait a minute. This is going to be awesome. I got this. They love me already. Right? Power pose. Try it. It feels dumb, I know, but fall out of love with your bad self. Don't let your stupid ass ego or pride or fear get in the way of you owning up to your own fucking greatness. Gee whiz. Join us. Join us. JamesVictore.com. There's a sign up there. You got to be involved in cubicle activism. Burning questions will get sent to you. You don't even have to go look for it. Cubicle activism is basically a DOP style posters that high res that you print out that we will send out for free, and all of them have a task. Like some of the first ones we want to do, one of the first ones is say no. We're people pleasers, you know? We want our clients, we want our people to be happy. We're people pleasers. Not necessary. Learn to say no. You know, your task for the next month, say no to one person every day. Your mom will still love you. The sun will come up. Your dick will not fall off. Say no. Another one that you guys have, that I have, stop apologizing. Quit apologizing. You've done nothing wrong. Stop apologizing. So you guys have got to be involved in cubicle activism. We're working our butt off. We're taking time off this year, and we've never fucking worked hard as hard ever. And you guys have got to be a part of it. I have one more thing I want to talk about, and it is this. This is part of the wall in our kitchen. And what these are, we call them, we're so pithy. I just realized we make up cute names for everything. That's just so dumbass, cute, and embarrassing. Po Buddy's Nerfect. Who says that? This is your anus? That's funny. So anyway, coffee notes. And what coffee notes is between my wife and I, and even my son Luca sometimes gets in the action, whoever wakes up first or has the foresight before they go to bed makes coffee. So Laura will make it before she goes to bed, because I wake up early and I'll be groggy and I'll look at the coffee machine. I'm like, oh, all I got to do is push the button and I get a big smile. So what it is we leave each other a note. And some of them are like crappy little, so I don't know if there's anything particularly, like could just be a Post-it note that says, too sleepy, love you. Or, but some of them actually have ended up being parts of, we put them into work, or we'll create a whole poster around this thing. But it's two things. One, it's practice for Laura and myself at the craft of just making. No critic. No, the audience is going to love it no matter what because it's sincere and honest and authentic. And sometimes like the J. Crew catalog will come in and we'll just like snip stuff out of there or draw directly onto stuff. Or there's one that says surfer juice. I guess I was going, surfing early in the morning and I needed coffee at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and she made a surfer reference. And, so it's practice at us being goofy and making. And it's also the other part, which is practice at us telling one specific person, an audience, that you love them. Right? It was a practice at me finding some new, interesting, exciting way to tell my wife that I love her. Now here's the groovy part. I want all of my work to be love notes. I want all of my work to have the impact that these things have. And I can do it. We can do it. It takes trust. It takes courage. It takes bravery. It takes firing a few clients, possibly. So what? I didn't tell you there's this one of the girls who was at the first dinner series. Her name was Amanda, and she runs a graphic design program in Corpus Christi, Texas, and also has her own small studio. And she has trouble with her weight, and she feels trapped in her design studio, right? And it's because of two things. One, because she's a caretaker. And this is things, when you spend 5 days and 5 evenings, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with somebody, you get to know them, and you can start pulling out these things and go, I got you. I know. Yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. We had a guy come through last time. His name was Ron. And I said, the whole chant, every day, it was like, the world needs more Ron. The world needs more Ron. He now knows. He hears this again and again. The world needs more Ron, right? But Amanda left us. She was a caretaker, and also there was something else about her that we called out on. But anyway, she goes back to Corpus Christi, and about 2 months later, she calls me, and she was so happy because what she did was she fired half of her clients. And she was so excited. And the reason she was excited, because she realized what those clients were. They were money. They were massive pain in the ass, horrible, unkind, not fruitful, but that was money, and she felt the fear of not having that money. Literally a month and a half after that phone call, the big fish walked into her studio. A client that she couldn't have said yes to because she was so busy with the bullshit, with the crappy little jobs, That's awesome, Because my work is not about me anymore. Fancy watches or painting on supermodels. Yeah, I'll do it sometimes, But my work is not about me anymore. And I love that. I love being in that place. Like, we take our stuff shit serious, and we want you to have it. We want you guys to, we want to help you in your own battles. And so I want all of my work to be love notes. So, guys, an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Peace up, A-Town down. Yeah, yeah. Okay.